Well, suffice it to say, we got a lot to get into because
Right.
what a way to go out. I mean, it's clear that you were a little shocked to say the least at how all the votes turned out. And I think even still, we're even trying to unpack what happened, let alone
Yeah.
yourself. So talk me through, in that weird purgatorial 2-minute period after the AI arena into the eviction votes, were you picking up any weird vibes in
Yeah,
retrospect?
I feel like the fact that they were all in that pink room and seemed to want to try to get away from me, I was like, what is going on? I never fully trusted Chelsea again. You know what I mean? And I knew that like she had it out for me. You know what I mean? I That's why I don't know if they showed this, but like an hour or two before the vote, I came up to her. I was like, Chelsea, if I win HOH, I will not put you up, and I would have stuck to that. I literally told that to her, and she was like, you're good, like relax and everything like that." So I literally told her I would not put her up, which I would have stuck to that. And honestly, had I won HOH, I would have put up Angela and Quinn and probably Chemo Rubina, which one of them would have come down. And I would have tried to work with Chelsea again in the game because I would have been like, fuck Quinn. He put me up. Angela could care less. I'm not going to stick my neck out for her anymore. And I don't want to go back on the deal I had made with people that I would put her up and everything like that. And if either of them would have left, I really wouldn't have cared. So that's pretty much what I would have done. The one that surprised me is honestly Mackenzie because I feel like her and Chemo never talked. They both said as much that they never talked game. I was the one person who maybe talked game with Mackenzie the most in the house. I was at least up there. And I meant it too when I said I would never come after her because like I would want to go to the end with her because she didn't start playing the game until day 45. So like I really I'm puzzled by that more than anything else.
Well, I mean, she has expressed to the other players at least. And look, she was certainly doing a lot of talks with Chelsea in the days prior about getting rid of you over somebody like Rabina. But she has said that she was at least a little bit swayed by Chemo's speech in the
Yeah.
moment that made her decide to turn her vote. And then, of course, there's the other side of Angela, despite this whole, brouhaha that we'll get into, voting to keep you because she thought that Chemo didn't have the votes to stay as well. So it was just one big calamity.
And the funniest thing too is her little goodbye message to me where she's like, "Oh, you're the reason I'm up on the block." It's like, maybe it's you calling that kid an idiot, a narcissist, a liar, all these things. Like the fact that she thought I had anything to do with that is like crazy to me. And like he put you on the block because he wanted to. You really think I could convince that kid to not put you on the block? And when I originally had a conversation with Quinn, he told me Rubina was the target. So I never lied to her. That's like crazy. Like, oh, I know that you had a like. Shut up! You don't know anything that's going on.
Well, let's talk about the aforementioned kid. That is one of the primary reasons why you're talking with me today.
Yeah,
Because, yeah, I mean, surprise yet again to say the least. When at that veto ceremony, Leah uses the veto, Quinn ends up putting you up, and it's clear from what you've expressed to me before that there was going to be no love lost had you stayed in the house. But give me sort of your reaction to your relationship with your fellow super fan throughout the season and how it sort of culminated in that moment.
Um, man, I want to be careful with my wording here, but Quinn really got on my nerves like a lot of the time, to be honest. So, like from a personality standpoint, I feel like me and him always kind of clashed a little bit. He's a nice kid and everything like that, but just not my cup of tea necessarily. And as a super fan, I feel like we were both maybe a little overconfident in some ways. But he especially would just make these decisions that I just found very puzzling, very bad. Putting Cedric up was not a good idea. Putting me up was a horrible idea. He was such an obvious liar in the game and somebody who was like exposed early on by people as being a liar. So yeah, to me that was yeah, to me he was just very puzzling. A lot of his decision making.
Well, you talk about that overconfidence. I mean, let's get into it, man, because you certainly talked a lot about the fact that you had this supreme social game comparing yourself to Dr. Will.
They prompted me that in the diary room. That was not.
Really?
Yes, they asked me for comparisons and of who I was modeling my game after, and I said Dr. Will and Dan. That was not me being like, "Oh, I'm as good as them" or anything like that.
Well, I would say though that maybe some other things were, telling Chelsea that you felt she was one of the best women in the house as from a gameplay perspective, telling someone like Mackenzie that you would have beaten her in the final two, admitting your final two with Tucker. It was saying a lot of internal monologuing seemingly out loud. Talk to me about the logic behind that, and how do you look back on some of those decisions?
Well, the thing with Chelsea is that what I told her in the backyard was nothing new. Like me and her had recognized that from early on in the game that we were two of like the best players in the game. We had said that to each other multiple times. So like that conversation in the backyard was nothing that I hadn't said before. You know what I mean? That she's a good social player and everything like that. And honestly, I would have tried to work with her again and I also told Mackenzie in that same conversation that I thought she had a good chance because she had to fight for her life and everything like that. You know what I mean? So and the thing with saying I had a final two with Tucker, I just wanted to kind of be forthright about what I did. That way I could explain to people like Leah, like, hey, this is why I did this. Hey, guys, this is why I did this. Because I thought that maybe being honest about it instead of lying like Chemo was would look a little bit better. So that was the logic behind it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you're a devout super fan of this game, and you know perception is everything. So again, there were some times when you were, to your point, very upfront about how you thought you were doing in this game. You know, saying that
Yes.
I'm in heavy competition for America's favorite player. I'm getting the most airtime, and I think that is again.
I don't think I ever said I was getting the most airtime. I think no airtime power rankings. I would usually put myself at 8.
But I do think that it maybe might have been a reason why people like Chelsea and Mackenzie felt like it was a reason to get rid of you this week, because
No,
they had
for
felt,
sure.
yeah, they had felt that maybe, you know, you had put yourself into a place where you might not necessarily vote for them to win. And especially reaching the jury point, they would rather guarantee someone like Rubina or Chemo to make it. But I also get to that point. It's an incredibly exciting game to play, especially from your fandom's perspective. So sometimes that stuff is going to, you know, come out in the process.
No, for sure.
Yeah, so let's talk about Leah here as well. Someone else that ends up, you know, unintentionally contributing to your demise here. I know you talked yesterday with Julie about how, in retrospect, you know, you maybe would have wanted to push harder to not have her use the veto, though you didn't want to necessarily in the moment, just to not push her in the other direction. But talk to me about that very complicated relationship that you nurtured throughout those 7 weeks.
Yeah, it was weird. And honestly, she was one of the reasons I admitted to my final two with Tucker right away because I wanted to let her know, like, hey, this is why. Because she asked me, like, if I would have voted her out over him the week prior. And I was like, blah, 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 blah. And so she kind of knew what that meant. And so, yeah, we didn't have much of a game. She didn't really talk a game with anybody for like the first half of the game. And that was a lot of people's complaints about her. So I was one of the only people who was like feeding her information and giving her stuff. And then also to like, we had a great personal relationship. You know, she was the one person in the house that I could go to and be like, aren't all these people like super annoying? And she'd be like, yes, they are. And we could just kind of laugh and have fun about all that. And so yeah, I think we had a great personal relationship, and I also knew I could beat her in the end. So you know, I felt like she was a good person to have by my side.
To that point, let's talk about Tucker, someone else who was a close ally of yours until he went out last week. Talk to me about that dynamic, and what do you think your chances would have been had you gone to the final two with him like you seemingly wanted?
You know, I would be a fool to think that he wouldn't get clipped at some point. You know what I mean? And I
Mm.
kind of always knew that. And in some ways, like I was kind of happy when he went out because trying to navigate the game with him was extremely difficult. He was always going after the people that I wanted to keep around. But had we gotten there at the end, he did a couple of things. You know, I don't want to harp on them too much because I think he is a good person, but he did a couple of things in the house that I know that a lot of people didn't agree with, just from a personal standpoint. So I feel like if we're just looking at the jury, Angela had a better relationship with me. She would have voted for me. Leah would have voted for me. Quinn would have voted for me over him. And I think Chelsea just did not like him on a personal level. I think she would have voted for me over him. So I think there's a couple people that he really rubbed the wrong way. So I think it would have been pretty easy, honestly.
Last but certainly not least, I'm going to give you a name of the people left in the house. Give me one to a few words to describe how you feel about them to me. Let's start with Angela.
Delusional.
Cam.
Chill.
Chelsea.
Smart but mean.
Chemo.
Adorable.
Leah.
Lovely.
Mackenzie.
Class act.
Quinn.
Unfunny but kind.
Rabina.
Sweetheart.
And finally, T-Core.
The best.
Listen, man, I love getting to watch super fans come in and play this game. And obviously, I wish we were talking 6 weeks down the line when you had $750,000 in your pocket. But I really hope you were able to relish this entire experience as you walk out of that larger matrix and back into the real world. It's a great opportunity to get the chance to talk with you, man, and watch you over the course of the past 7 weeks. And thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me. As always, it was a great time.
Thanks, man. Only one person gets to win, so I'm not beating myself up too much over any one thing. I made a lot of mistakes along the way. But to get the key to go in the house, to get to play this game for more than half the time there, get to experience it all was super fun. And honestly, I'm glad I'm not going to be in the jury house. So there we go.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well,
yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I don't like everybody cares so much about getting to vote on the winner. I don't really care that much about that. If I don't get to win, then whatever.
Well, that being said, I'm looking forward to watching your commentary as the rest of it plays out. And thank you so much again, Joseph, for taking the time to chat with me. All the best to you and yours, and enjoy your weekend, man.
Thanks, Mike. Always been a big fan, man. Great to talk to you.
Oh, thank you. The pleasure is all mine. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.